Welcome to our class, Money and Capital Markets. So we are going to look at question number 3 on the dividend models. So before we answer question number 3, we'll just go through a recap of the classes that we've had. So we're going to look at dividend valuation models. So a company is owned by shareholders, and these shareholders have an interest in earnings, which we call dividends. Now, these dividends are important because it is the means through which they earn their returns. So we're going to look at models of valuations that are available for equity holders, which we call dividend models. So um, we'll start with this DDM, and we'll look at how it's calculated, and when it is used, then we reduce it to the calculation we are going to look at. So these valuation tools are there to estimate the intrinsic value of stock based on the investor's expected future dividends. So they are grounded on the principle that the value of stock today must be equal to the present value of all the future dividends. So we have what we call the DDM, which is a dividend model. It's a fundamental method that is used when evaluating equity, and it asserts that the fair price of all stock is actually the sum of the expected future dividends discounted back to their present value using the investor's required rate of return. So the formula you're seeing there is showing us a DDM model, okay, where PO is our intrinsic value of stock now. DT stands for the dividend in year T, 1 plus R, where R is the required rate of return, plus PN, that is the value of stock in year N. Okay, so expected stock price at year N. So we look at a basic example use that will illustrate that formula. Okay, so using the discount model, the DDM. So suppose we have stock that is expected to earn the following dividends in year 1. It's expected to earn a 5 kwacha, a 6 kwacha, and a 7 kwacha the next 3 years. And expected stock price at the end of 3 years is 100 kwacha. The required rate of return is at 10%. So what is the price of stock? So what are we given here? We are given um, the formula that we had looked at. What is the formula? Basic value. PO is got what? DT over what? What is the formula? DT 1 plus R to the power T. Plus PN, where PN is expected stock price at the end of year N, 1 plus R to the power N. Okay, so we're going to start with these 3 dividends. So we have in year 1, 5 kwacha. In year 2, we have 6 kwacha. In year 3, we have 7 kwacha. And that's a particular year when we expect the stock price to sell for 100 kwacha. So we calculate the growth of these dividends. So 5 kwacha 1.1 to the power 1, 6 kwacha 1.1 to the power 2, 7 kwacha 1.1 to the power 3, plus 100 kwacha 1.1 to the power 3 because we're selling it in that year. So you can simply add them mathematically. So the value of stock, therefore, intrinsic value will be 89.61. So that is how we use this model to calculate the value of stock. Okay, so there are different types of growth models that we need to know. There's what we call the constant growth model, whose formula is given as follows. Constant growth model is a dividend growth pattern that looks at how that significantly stock will grow. So there are two major scenarios for what we call the Gordon model, which is given by P0, 1 plus growth, R minus G, where R is the required rate of return and G is a constant growth. So D0 is calculated as follows. So D0 is given by, we say D1 can be calculated as D0, 1 plus growth. D2 can be calculated as D0, 1 plus growth, the power 2. The difference in the is here, 2 minus 0. D3 is what? D0, 1 plus growth, the power what? 3. The difference in here. All right? But if you're dealing with D4 and with reference to the previous year, the power will be what? The power 1. The power is the difference in the years that we are dealing with. Power 1. So the value of stock now is given by D1 R minus G. So suppose we're given that stock today is 10 kwacha. Okay. And the growth rate is 6%, and our required rate of return is 16%. And somebody deduce how do we calculate the value of stock now using the Gordon's model, using this formula. So in this case, we're not given D1, but we know that from our calculations, we can calculate our D1 as D0, 1 plus growth. So what is the value of stock going to be? Our value of stock, therefore, will be D1, which is given by D0, 1 plus growth, over the return minus growth. So in this case, our D0 is what? 10 kwacha. Our growth rate is 6% over 16%. So 16%, 0.16 minus 6%, 0.06. So in this case, we're going to have top, we're going to have 10.6. Below, we're going to have 10%, which is 0.10. So the value of stock now, therefore, will be 106 kwacha. So this is how we calculate the value of stock using Gordon's model, 106 kwacha. Okay. So when you hear that a company just paid, so just know that the dividend now is actually D0. If you hear that the company will pay 10 kwacha in the following year, that is D1. So this is how we use these models to calculate the value of stock now. All right. So let's look at another example evaluating the values of stock. For instance, we have a scenario where we are told that a company is expected to pay a dividend of 3 kwacha the next year, and dividends are expected to grow at 5% annually with a required rate of return of 10%. So what is this 3 kwacha? This is our D1 because it is the next year. So our value of stock will be D1 rate minus what? Growth. So our D1 will be 3 kwacha. The required rate of return 10% and the growth rate is what? 5%. So when you calculate that, we're going to get the value of stock now using the Gordon's model at 60 kwacha. Are we together? Are you following me? Okay, it's a build-up of what we were learning in the previous sessions of our classes. So this is a constant growth model. And we also have what is called the multi-phase growth model. The multi-phase growth model is actually used for companies that do not have stable growth rates. So this model will assume that there is initial high growth rate, then we have transition phases, we have constant growth phases. So the steps is that we need to learn how to forecast for dividends during the non-constant phases. Then you calculate the present values of each at the beginning. Then you can use Gordon's model to find the terminal value. So if, for instance, we are told that a company just declared a dividend now of 10 kwacha, whose growth rate for the next 3 years will be 6%. So phase one, the next 3 years are going to have 6%. Then the growth would drop to 3% thereafter. And we are told that the required rate of return is 13%. What is the value of stock now? So we have two phases. What do we say? We started with a dividend now. Now means originally 10 kwacha. In this 10 kwacha will grow in the subsequent what? 3 years. Okay? You grow at 6% in the next 3 years. Thereafter to drop. So year one, year two, year three. So 1, 2, and 3. It will be growing at 6%. Then year four, the dividend will change from 6% to 3%. So what is the growth rate from here to here? That is 6%. So to grow 1.06. 1.06. It's growing from 100%, so 1.06. Even from here to here, 1.06. But from year 3 to year 4, what is the growth rate? It drops to 3%. So what is the growth rate? We're not multiplying by 1.06, but we're going to multiply by 1.0 what? 1.03. So let's calculate. 10 times 1.06, 10.6. That is the growth rate for year 1. Then 10.6 times 1.06, what are we going to have? Quickly. I don't have my calculator. I'll need your help. This figure is just used to calculate the cash flows using the dividend models. Remember, I said to get D1, it is D0 minus what? D0, 1 plus growth. That is how we found for year 1. For year 2, it is D1, D2 is equal to D0, 1 plus growth. So that's what we are doing for each of them. So you can, if you want to calculate using a long cut, you will still get the dividends for the 3 years. D3 is got what? D0, 1 plus growth to the power what? The power 3. So here we're going to have 10, 1.06 to the power 1. What do we get? Then here we're going to have 10, 1.06 to the power what? 2. Then here we're going to have what? 10, 1.06 to the power what? 3. So this is the growth for the first subsequent 3 years. Does anyone have a calculator? What is the growth for the first year? I've already calculated for you, 10.6. How about for the second year? What are you finding?
236.
So 11.236.
Yes.
And this one? So you multiply 10.0
11.91016.
times 1.06. We're going to have what?
11.9 11.911016.
91. And here, times 1.03.
That's 12.2674. 674.
6.27. Okay. So this is dividend. So we have what? Dividend for year 1, 10.6. Dividend for year 2, 12.23. Dividend for year 3, 11.91. So we're interested in these first 3 phases. So for these phases, we're going to discount each of these ones here. So dividend for year 1 is what? 10.6. All right. Dividend for year 2 is what? 11.23. Dividend for year 3 is what? 11.91. So what to find the present value for each of these ones here? So we divide by, what is our discount rate? 13%. So we're going to divide by 13%. So this is 1.13 to the power 1, since this is for year 1. Here, 1.13 to the power 2. Here, 1.13. This is the power what? 3. So that we find the present values for each of these dividends and we add them. So this is the value of stock for phase 1. So what is 10.6 divided by 1.13? 10.6 divided by 1.13. Okay, 9.38. All right. Then 11.23 divided by 11.23 divided by 1.13 squared.
It's going to be 8.79.
8.79. Okay.
79.
Then here, 11.91 divided by 1.13 to the power 3. 11
So we are going to have 8.25.
8.25. So let's add all these to find the value of stock for the first phase.
So the total gives us 26.42.
26.42. Okay, a recap of what we've done so far. We're told that the company just declared a 10-quarter dividend, whose growth is 6% for the first 3 years. Thereafter, it drops to 3%. The required rate of return is 13%. So find the value of stock now. So what did it do? We use a constant growth model to grow this 10 quarter for the subsequent 3 years by multiplying 6% for the next 3 years. So 1.06, 1.06, 1.06. That is what produced 10.6, 11.23, and 11.91. So these are the future growths for the dividend of 10 quarter in the next 3 years. However, we can discount and find the value of stock now. So here, since it's a 1, we divide by 13% to the power 1 here. We reduce this by 13% to the power 2. Reduce this one by 13% to the power 3. That's what we did here. So for these stocks, for the first phase, we're using the constant growth model. So the value of stock in phase 1 is 26 quarter. In year 2, we are told that the growth rate will grow to 3% thereafter. Whenever we are thereafter, we're using what? Gordon's model. So as of year 3, remember, the price of stock as of year 3 will be what? D1. Okay, so if it was 0 there, I would have put 1 there. If it's 3 there, we're going to put 4 there. It's D4 over what? R minus G. So our dividend in year 4 was what? 12.27 divided by our RI is what? 13%, 0.13, minus the growth rate, which is 3% in this phase, 0.03. So the value of stock in the third year will be 12.27 over 10%, which will be 122.7. Now this 122.7 is the value of stock as of the third year. So we need to discount this one also back to year 0 so that we find the value of stock in phase 2. So we're going to simply divide by 1.13 to the power 3 because this is the value of stock as of year 3. So what is the value for phase 2? 122.7 divided by 1.13 to the power 3. What do we get?
If I've done it right, it's giving me 85.04.
85 point what? 04.
04.
So now, what is the total value of stock? We add these two. This plus that, what do we get?
It's giving 111.46.
Okay. What are you getting?
It's 111.46. We are adding the V1 and value 2, not
Yes, we're adding both value 1 and value 2. So we're getting
111.46.
1.46.
111.46.
Okay. 1.46. Okay. So with that being said, um, we can now answer our question in the exam. Okay, so let's now go to this question here. Okay, so we've been given a question to look at. So what are we given in this question? What are we given in this question?
Mr. Collins, will that question be 3B?
3A. We'll start from A.
Oh, okay.
So 3A, MHA has just paid a dividend of 170 kwacha per share. The company's dividend and earnings have been growing at 40% per annum for the past 2 years. With the change in economic outlook of the country, the company advisors have predicted the following growth rates in dividends and earnings based on the fundamentals. So 25% per annum for the next 3 years, 15% for the next 2 years, and after that, 10% thereafter. They also found that the shareholders required rate of return is 21.7% for the period now until the fifth thereafter will change 4% per annum into perpetuity. Calculate the current value of MHA that investors will be prepared to pay 25 marks. So I've talked about the multi-phase. Yeah. So how do we illustrate this? So it has many phases. So we can use our number line. We try this question, or you try it as homework since I have explained what needs to be done. Let's give each other ideas on what needs to be done. What have we been given in this scenario? Our D0.
Let's do it together.
What is the 170?
That's D1. Oh, why D0?
Is it D0 or D1?
Oh, it's been paid. It's D0, sorry.
D0. Okay. Then what is our G1? Growing at 40% for the past 2 years. So G1 is 40%. All right. The next 3 years, our G2 for phase 2 is 25%. The next 3 years, next 2 years, 15%, that is our phase 3. Okay? Then 10%, phase 4, G4. It was a very complicated, that's why there are 25 marks. So you needed to understand very well the multi-phase. Okay? So declare the dividend of how much? 170. So we're going to use our number line. Year 0 is starting with a 170. Then for the subsequent, how many years? This is for the past 2 years. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So for the next 2 years, we'll be growing at what? 1.4, right? 1.40. All together so far with the illustration I'm doing here. So this is year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5, year 6, year 7, year 8, and 9. So the 40% is for 1.4, 1.4 for the next 2 years, right? So you're going to grow this dividend here and here for the what? Past 2 years. Then the next 3 years, it will be at what? 25%. So what's the growth rate? Next 3 years, 1, 2,
25.
3. So 1.25, right? 1.25. 1.25. What follows? 15% for the next 2 years. So it is growing again 2 years here. 1, 2. At what percent? 15%. So 1.15. 1.15. All right. Then thereafter is from this point here going, yeah. So this will be what? Our last growth rate of 10%. All together. So from here to here, it will go at what growth rate? 10%. From here to here, it will be 1.10. So what is our RRR, required rate of return? 21.7%. So an interesting question. So we are being asked to calculate what? The value of stock. So I'll need you to follow through my video. I'll be marking at every phase the growth rates using the dividends that you're going to project using the growth models, and also how you're going to discount each of these ones to the present value. This is our D0 just helping us to grow these values here. Then you sum up all the present values. So you can use Gordon and the DDM models. Is that clear? Are we together?
Mom. We are here.
Okay. So tomorrow I'll start from here. Okay, those that I met, I think we had looked at this question already. I want these those of you who've just started to really go through this, then calculate the value of stock.